It started the way slow deaths always start. Quiet, polite, and full of paperwork. I was there the day the Galactic Council passed Directive 942, the one that cut Earth's trade output by 80% for environmental balancing. A clean way of saying, "You're too loud, too fast, too human for our kind." They smiled when they said it. They always did. We were the newcomers in the council, barely a century into space travel, still learning the ropes of diplomacy, trade etiquette, off-world negotiations. We tried. God knows we tried. Sent our best minds, our most reasonable diplomats. All smiles, all open hands, and we were punished for it. See, the other species in that ivory tower coalition? They hated us. Not out loud, of course. That would have been too honest. No, they hid it behind bureaucratic walls, passive-aggressive treaties, and whisper campaigns about primitive instincts. They saw our fire and wanted it gone. The council chamber on Varel Prime was a floating cathedral, miles wide, glowing silver and blue, polished like a sanctified lie. I sat in the human delegation box, watching them vote to starve our planet. My name's Commander Rylan Maddox, and that day something broke inside me that would never heal right again. Back home, our orbitals went dark within months. Fuel rationing hit the Martian colonies first. Earth's coastal cities turned black at night. Hospitals ran backup generators for surgeries. Food shipments stalled, then stopped. I got daily updates, each one heavier than the last. Civil unrest in Lagos. Meltdown in Lunar 3. Famine reports confirmed in Southeast Eurasia. I read each line like a quiet death notice, because that's what it was. They didn't shoot us, they didn't invade, they just bled us like leeches with law degrees. And our leaders? They bowed. They called for calm. They used words like cooperation, grievance procedures, and intercultural misunderstanding. I used different words. Words like retaliation, counterstrike, and retribution. And I wasn't alone. There was a growing storm beneath all the silence. Cargo haulers reprogrammed their engines to military specs. Old Earth war veterans were showing up in the asteroid belts. Moon-based labs that were once peaceful began going black on satellite feeds. The council thought they'd castrated us. They had no idea what kind of monsters they were building out of starvation. I got the message from General Roan, one of the last Earth-born high commanders who hadn't sold his balls for peace. His voice came in through a cracked relay system. "Rylan," he said, "we're done asking. The burn order is approved. You know the targets." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. That night, I suited up. I walked onto the bridge of the Vindicator, Earth's last Dreadnought-class warship they thought we had decommissioned. The ship's AI reactivated after years of slumber. Its voice was colder than frost. "Welcome back, Commander. Mission parameters?" "Varel Prime," I said. "Burn it until they remember what it feels like to fear humanity." The lights dimmed red. The ship roared to life like an animal unchained. I looked out into the void, not with hope, not with pride, but with rage carved into my bones. They called us uncivilized, too violent, too emotional, and they were right. They just forgot one thing. You don't push Earth. You don't corner a species that learned to survive its own hell. You sure as hell don't starve us. Because when the last polite word dies on our lips, there's only one thing left. Fire. The Vindicator wasn't just a warship. It was a statement. A 3,000-meter-long middle finger to the Galactic Council and everything it stood for. She was mothballed 10 years ago, under council pressure, docked in the shadow of Pluto like a sleeping god. But they never shut her down completely. We made sure of that. Back then, I called it insurance. Now, I called it the beginning of hell. Inside, the walls still smelled like fuel and gunpowder. She was alive again, her reactors humming, gravity stabilizers spinning up. the cold steel of war stirring under my boots. I walked down the central deck alone, past empty crew bunks, flickering consoles, and sealed armories. The AI spoke again, voice low and emotionless. "Commander Maddox, weapon systems primed, nuclear payloads secured, railgun coils charged, awaiting full crew complement." "No crew," I muttered. "This one's personal." "Acknowledged. Engaging solo combat protocol. Manual override granted." I stood in the command bay, staring at a hologram of Virel Prime, home of the Galactic Council, 78 million alien dignitaries, senators, trade lords, aristocrats, every one of them complicit, every one of them clapping while Earth rotted. The AI highlighted the Capitol spire. "Primary political target locked. Collateral damage estimate." "Spare me the numbers." Understood. See, this wasn't war the way they knew it. This wasn't about fleet maneuvers or diplomatic warnings. This was something deeper, older. The kind of violence that doesn't need orders, only a reason. And they gave us one. They gave us thousands. Starved children, frozen outposts, empty food lines, dead civilians. I opened the comms channel. Not to Earth Command. They didn't have the stomach for what came next. I called the outer line. The outer line wasn't official. It wasn't legal. It was made up of ex-pilots, ex-soldiers, smugglers, tech engineers, angry colonists, Martian miners, asteroid pirates, people the government disavowed long ago. They lived in the shadows of failed treaties, working in salvage yards and illegal orbital hubs. People like me. The signal pinged across the dark side of Saturn's rings. I waited. Static buzzed. Then a voice. Female, low, rough as gravel. "Rylan, we figured it'd be you. Got targets. Send coordinates. No negotiations this time?" A pause. "Good. We're tired of pretending." One by one, the others answered. Cargo haulers that were secretly gunships, research stations that housed EMP arrays, civilian freighters with retrofitted missile bays. They were all done playing nice. The AI tracked them as they aligned in stealth across the outer sectors. It wasn't a fleet. It was a massacre waiting for permission. I gave it. Back on Earth, the media would try to calm the riots with propaganda. Government leaders would urge measured responses. But out here, we weren't asking anymore. We were the part of humanity that still remembered what a punch felt like. The part that didn't care for soft speeches and interstellar harmony. You starve us. We bring the butcher's bill. The Vindicator exited Pluto's shadow, her engines ignited, lighting up the void with a cold white fire. The ship groaned, angry from its slumber, as if it too remembered everything they did to us. "ETA to Virel Prime, 47 hours, the AI said. That gave me time to think, time to remember. I had a son once, Terran. 17 years old, born on Europa Station. Smart kid. Too smart. He believed in peace, believed in the Council, said I was too bitter, said I held on to war like a crutch. I let him believe it. Let him think the universe could be fair if we just played nice. He died during the freeze riots. When Council-imposed fuel shortages hit the Jovian stations, temperatures dropped fast. The station governors turned off heating in non-essential sections. Terran was in one of them. They said he froze in his sleep. I didn't go to the funeral. There was no body to bury. Just a message on a cracked data tablet. We regret to inform you. They always regret, but never enough to change anything. That's when I stopped being patient, stopped believing in the system, because systems don't bleed, only people do. Hours passed. Then came the Intercept. A Council war frigate, Zareth class, appeared on long-range scans. It was headed toward me, flanked by 2 smaller corvettes. Fast, nimble. Not meant for open war, but good enough for intimidation. They hailed me. A bloated face appeared on screen. Pale skin, black eyes, soft hands. Bureaucrat in uniform. Unidentified vessel, this is Council Enforcement Ship Vornak. You are entering restricted space. Identify yourself and stand down. I smiled. Sure thing. Name's Commander Rylan Maddox, Earthborn, former Council Navy, and you're going to want to get the hell out of my way. The alien blinked. You are violating. I cut the channel and fired. 2 railgun slugs tore through the void like angry gods. The corvettes evaporated into spinning chunks of glowing scrap. The main ship spun out of formation, engines crippled. I could hear the silence of space. No screaming, no last words, just explosions, fire, and the cold satisfaction of balance. The AI chimed in. Hostiles neutralized. I nodded, gripping the railing tight. It had started. 40 hours in, I met the rest of the fleet near the Varen Fold Gate. Over 24 ships, each held together with hate, duct tape, and human desperation. Smugglers, pirates, mercs, every one of them armed and smiling like demons. They weren't soldiers. They were revenants, living ghosts carrying Earth's pain on their backs. A broadcast went out. Not from me, from them. The Echo Rebellion, as the media would later call us, sent a live message to the Galactic Council. A woman's voice, sharp, defiant. To the dignitaries of Varel Prime, we are done waiting. You cut Earth down and thought we'd stay on our knees. You turned peace into a cage and called it order. We remember the famines. We remember the blackouts. We remember the dead. This is not a declaration of war. This is a reckoning. Humanity is not your experiment. We are the fire you thought you'd snuff out. Brace yourselves. The transmission ended. Council comms went silent. No response. No apology. Cowards! Then came the final jump. The fold gate cracked open, spilling our fleet into Varel space. No fanfare, no speeches. Just war. Varel Prime hovered below us, a planet of towers, spires, glowing cities, and luxury domes. So proud, so clean. It made me sick. The AI cued targets, defense turrets, atmospheric regulators, comms hubs, the capital spire. I gave the order, paint the spire, load Hellfire-class nukes. Confirmed, firing sequence initiated. On screen, the city sparkled. Alien children played in parks. Officials walked glass bridges. Markets buzzed. The same people who signed off on Earth's slow death. The same ones who cut our food lines while sipping imported wine. The nuke launched. A bright, silent bloom erupted in the center of the city. The capital spire cracked in half, falling like a dying god. Fire swallowed buildings. Screams poured into open comms. The perfect alien utopia shattered like stained glass. I didn't blink. The AI whispered one last update. Target destroyed. Estimated casualties, 2.7 million. I leaned forward, voice low. Good. That was just the beginning. More ships broke from the shadows, hammering infrastructure. Council satellites burned out. Supply depots vanished in molten craters. Their fleet tried to rally, too slow, too used to order, not ready for chaos. We gave them chaos. For every child that starved on Earth, a city burned. For every colony they choked, a station exploded. We didn't conquer. We didn't occupy. We made them feel what we felt. And when their leaders begged for a ceasefire, we didn't answer. Because it was never about war. It was about making the galaxy remember that Earth doesn't beg. We warn. We bleed. We burn. Then we return fire. The Varel system was burning. You could see it from orbit. Smoke coiling upward in slow spirals. Cities glowing red in places where they used to shimmer gold. Communications blacked out. Council response fragmented. Their peacekeepers were either dead or running. The Vindicator's control deck was quiet. Just the hum of the AI and the fading echo of nuclear fire. Estimated counter-strike window, 3 hours, the AI said calmly. Council fleet mobilizing from Sector 12. Let them come. I sat alone, staring out the viewport. I should have felt something, relief, satisfaction, but there was nothing left, just ash where hope used to be. I didn't come here for peace. I came to make sure they never forgot what Earth did when cornered. This wasn't about a war they could win or lose. It was about memory, burning it into their alien bones, making sure they understood the price of pushing us too far. Behind me, the rest of the fleet continued the assault. Makeshift human ships with scavenged weapons tore into orbital stations. Former mining rigs reconfigured as artillery platforms pounded the planet's surface. Human voices, angry and righteous, filled the comms. One transmission stood out. A voice, old, raspy, broken. "This is Admiral Hune of Council Command. Cease fire, please. Civilians are dying. We are open to negotiation." I picked up the comm. "Yeah. And what were we? When you starved us? When you froze our children? When Earth cried for help and you gave us rules and silence?" "We didn't mean—" "You meant exactly what you did." I cut the channel. The AI didn't comment. Machines don't judge. They just execute. "Commander, incoming fleet signature detected. 11 Council warships entering system. Primary carrier, Taranthus class. Flagship confirmed." Finally, the retaliation had arrived. I stood, spine aching, fists clenched at my sides. "Let's greet them properly." The Taranthus-class carrier was the size of a city, its sleek white hull glowing with council crests. Clean, arrogant, dignified. The kind of ship they used for peacekeeping operations, which usually meant bombing the weaker species into submission while sending a PR statement about galactic stability. Not today. I launched the Vindicator's countermeasures. Missiles surged through space. They weren't elegant. They weren't silent. They screamed, like Earth did. Their shields held for a moment, long enough for them to realize this wasn't a protest. This was vengeance. Railguns opened next, slicing into their forward escorts. Frigates cracked, hulls ruptured. The carrier took a glancing hit. Enough to hurt, not enough to kill. Didn't matter. That wasn't the goal. I didn't want a quick death. I wanted them to understand. "Multiple council vessels broadcasting surrender codes," the AI said. "Disable their comms?" Acknowledged. I wasn't here to listen. I was here to show the galaxy that humanity was done playing nice. Behind me, the fleet surged forward. Ram ships collided with council destroyers, tearing chunks out of hulls. Smugglers dropped mines in formation. Martian bombers carpeted orbital docks. The battle wasn't clean. It was personal. These weren't soldiers fighting for flag and pride. These were survivors. Rebels. Men and women who buried family in cold graves and never got an apology. And now they wanted blood. 20 minutes in, the sky was full of fire and broken metal. Council ships drifted in pieces. Escape pods fled in every direction. Some got away. Some didn't. One came close. It hailed us. A young voice, desperate, shaking. "Please, there are children aboard. We're just medical personnel. This isn't—" I stared at the screen. A small freighter. Non-combatant. But they were council flagged. I paused. For a second, my fingers hovered over the shutoff. And then I remembered Europa Station. I remembered the reports, the non-essential sectors. The children freezing in the dark while the council prioritized supply chains. "Terran." I gave the order. "Target locked," the AI confirmed. "Firing." The screen went black. No explosion shown. No sounds heard. Just the weight. This was what they made us into. And now they'd reap it. The council wasn't quiet for long. At hour 5, they tried again, this time through an old friend. The comm pinged. The AI hesitated. Incoming call from Ambassador Rune, former human liaison. Encrypted line. I laughed. Patch him through? The man who appeared on screen had aged. His face was worn. Gray now, eyes tired. He looked like a diplomat stripped of all illusion. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. Rylan, you've made your point. No, I said. Not yet. We need to stop this. We tried stopping it. You called it compliance. Now it's your turn to learn what that word really means. He sighed. They're scared, Rylan. The other species. They're talking about cutting Earth off completely. Not just trade, existence. You're giving them the justification they always wanted. They already did that when they starved our people. You think this ends with fire? You think you can kill your way to justice? I'm not here for justice. I'm here to remind them. He looked at me like he was staring into a man he no longer recognized. But the truth is, I had never been more myself. That night, in the ship's dark quarters, I sat alone. No officers, no crew, just silence and old memories. I opened the only file I kept locked. A video of Terran, 16, laughing in the old Europa greenhouse. Sunlight. Well, simulated sunlight, on his face. Talking about how one day he'd joined the diplomacy corps, how he'd help build something better. I watched it on loop, then I deleted it. He died believing in peace. I lived to prove why that dream was always a lie. Back on Earth, I knew they were panicking. Governments issuing public apologies, council puppets trying to clean up the mess, telling the galaxy that Rylan Maddox doesn't represent humanity. But that was another lie. I represented everything they tried to bury. The anger, the hunger, the betrayal, the refusal to die quietly. And more were joining. New fleets from Saturn's moons, outlaws from Titan, former peacekeepers switching sides, colonists from Proxima declaring independence. The Council's grip was cracking, and not from alien pressure, from within. Because it turns out, you can only suffocate humanity for so long before something feral fights back. At hour 12, the Vindicator received a direct message from the Council core worlds. A single sentence. What do you want? I smiled, leaned in close to the console. We want you to be afraid every time you hear the word Earth. And then I gave the next order. Target, Council Archive Hub, Artheon 5, the data center for every law, treaty, and vote they ever passed. A city-sized vault of lies. We erased it, not with bombs, with code, virus bombs planted by the rebellion weeks earlier. The moment I gave the word, entire centuries of documentation, history, and policy vanished. Their laws burned in silence. The Council tried to back it up, but the backups were already gone. They'd stolen our future with bureaucracy. We just erased theirs with a keystroke. You can't govern a galaxy when no one remembers who you are. When the Vindicator turned, the stars behind us were red. The smoke of vengeance drifted across the void like a flag. The Council wasn't just bleeding ships. They were bleeding faith. And faith, once gone, doesn't return with policy. The AI broke the silence. Message received from Earth Command. I paused. That was new. Play it. A gruff voice came through. Older, worn, Earth accented. Commander Maddox, this is General Kerr. The world governments are folding. Council is threatening species-wide sanctions. You've shattered diplomatic order. Congratulations. You made history. He exhaled. Now here's the real news. You've got half the colonies calling you a hero. The other half wants your head. Earth split. But it's too late to stop you. You've lit the fuse. Just thought you should know." He hesitated again. "For what it's worth, my son died on Lunar 3 during the blackouts. I didn't believe in this path, but I get it now. Do what you have to." The message ended. I sat there, fists on the steel desk. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. This wasn't a rebellion anymore. It was a movement, a virus of fire spreading from Earth across the stars, infecting every suppressed voice, every forgotten colony, every man who buried a child and was told to be quiet. The Galactic Council pressured too far, and humanity answered with fire. You know you've broken the system when it starts to eat itself. That's what I saw over the next few days. Not retaliation, not strategy. Panic. Council outposts shut down communications. Border planets started rejecting their broadcasts. Neutral species cut diplomatic ties, not because they sided with us, but because they saw what fear looked like and didn't want it knocking on their doors. And make no mistake, we were fear, wrapped in steel, carved in grief, painted in the blood of bureaucrats who thought they could regulate human fire like it was a market. I stood on the bridge of the Vindicator as a relay from the Saturn blockade fed into the screen. There were no suits, no admirals, just a scruffy man with oil on his hands and murder in his voice. "Station Azura just kicked out their council rep. Bastard tried to use emergency override codes to shut down our life support. He left in a pod, -1 arm." I nodded. "Good. Send them targeting coordinates. There's still a weapons cache on our Venice 3. "You got it." This was how it started. Not with banners or declarations, but with regular people deciding not to die politely anymore. We didn't need to keep bombing planets. We just had to keep reminding them what they let happen. By now, the media spin was in full meltdown. Council broadcasts tried to paint us as extremists, terrorists, human supremacists, rogue factions. They showed old footage of Earth wars, tried to frame it as a warning. Didn't matter, because we had something stronger than narrative. We had proof. Proof of food shipments blocked, hospitals shut down, entire cities left to freeze. We released the data. Unfiltered. Names, timestamps, votes, signatures, all tied to smiling council officials who'd gone on vacation while Earth starved. And the galaxy watched. We weren't the monsters anymore. We were the mirror. I ordered the Vindicator to refuel near the wreckage of Council Station Delta 13. There was nothing left but twisted steel and empty airlocks. We salvaged what we could. Converted scrap into armor plating. Rerouted coolant lines. War doesn't wait for elegance. That's when the message came. Not from the Council, from someone worse. "Commander Maddox, this is High Executor Krail of the Vorth Dominion." The Vorth, 7-foot-tall bastards with bone-plated skin and zero regard for anything not Vorth. They were supposedly allies of the Council, but everyone knew they followed their own agenda. He stood tall on the screen. Behind him, a massive warship with jagged armor pulsed like a living thing. "Your demonstration has impressed many, including us. We believe the Council has grown soft, weak. Your actions prove humanity is salvageable." I stared at him. "What are you offering?" "Alliance. The Dominion supports strength. We watched your retaliation with appreciation. Fight with us, and we can carve out a new order, one where Earth is respected." I leaned in. "You're not offering respect. You're offering a leash with a longer chain." He smiled. The Vorth version of it, anyway. More teeth than comfort. "Be careful, human. Pride has undone better men." I cut the channel. The Vorth weren't allies. They were vultures, waiting for the Council to fall so they could sweep in and pick the bones clean. and they thought I'd be their blade. They didn't understand me at all. This wasn't about power. This wasn't about empire. It was about vengeance, plain and raw, and no other species could carry that kind of fire without turning it into tyranny. Only we could weaponize grief and make it righteous. The next target wasn't military. It was symbolic. The Hall of Unity on Caressa Prime. A massive cultural hub where all council laws were ratified. A monument to intergalactic peace, built on polished stone and artificial waterfalls. Children were taught there. Treaties were celebrated. And it was the same hall where the votes passed that stripped Earth's mining rights, crippled our transport systems, and forced rationing that killed millions. They wanted to write history from there. So we erased it. The strike came silent. We used repurposed orbital haulers loaded with vacuum charges, non-nuclear, non-radioactive, pure concussive devastation. The moment the charges hit, the building collapsed inward like a house of cards in a vacuum. No lights, no warning. Just a message carved into the rubble. Remember Earth. We didn't take credit, didn't broadcast speeches. We let the crater speak for itself. The fallout was worse than we expected. Species that had nothing to do with Earth suddenly started protesting the Council. Riots broke out on Council-aligned planets. Alien citizens pulled their ambassadors out. Whole trade routes shut down, not by force, but by fear. And through it all, Earth said nothing. Because we didn't need to. We had become the silence between explosions. But every war has a crack. Ours came in the form of Lieutenant Arik Hale. He was one of ours, born in the Ceres Belt, fought with the rebellion since the first shot, ran supply lines, organized colony strikes, loyal, brave, until he wasn't. He defected, took with him detailed logs, fleet positions, encryption codes, spilled it all to the Council in exchange for immunity and a seat in the new Reconciliation Committee. Coward. We found him on Vixari Station 2 days later. I didn't send assassins. I didn't send a fleet. I went myself. The station guards were too stunned to resist. Some even stepped aside. I found him sitting in a luxury suite, surrounded by alien diplomats who flinched the moment they saw me. He stood, tried to talk. "Rylan, you don't have to do this." I walked up, took out my sidearm, and shot him in the kneecap. He screamed, collapsed. "I'm not killing you," I said. "You get to live. But you'll limp for the rest of your miserable life, and every step you'll remember what it cost you to sell out the people who bled with you." I walked out as he cried on the floor, guards too scared to move. Back on the Vindicator, the AI brought in the latest report. Multiple species proposing a council dissolution. Coalition of Midworlds offers temporary ceasefire to Earth-based forces. I laughed. They were breaking. Finally. But we weren't done. Not yet. Because there was one last target, one final monument to burn. The council seat on Kiral 9. Their hidden planet. Secure, untouchable, known only to their inner circle. We found it. Thanks to Arik's files, before he ran, he gave us the coordinates to their true center of power. Not the spires, not the ceremonial chambers. The real throne room. Buried under layers of shields, black site encryption, and defense fleets. We loaded the coordinates. We armed every missile we had. And I stood in front of the crew, in the core deck, as they looked to me for the final word. "This isn't about revenge anymore," I said. "This is about making sure the galaxy never forgets what they let happen. This is the end of their illusion, the end of their pretty words and quiet genocide." No applause, no cheers, just grim nods. Because we all knew we might not make it back. But that didn't matter, because we weren't fighting to live. We were fighting to make sure our dead were heard. The Vindicator turned toward Kiral 9. Engines hot, weapons locked. The fire was almost done burning. But we weren't finished yet. The approach to Kiral 9 wasn't like the others. There were no welcoming beacons, no transit hubs, no planetary traffic, just silence. Dead quiet, like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. That was how you knew you'd found something sacred, the kind of place so heavily protected they didn't even want to acknowledge it existed. But we had the coordinates now, and we weren't coming for negotiations. I stood on the command deck of the Vindicator, hands clasped behind my back, staring at the ghost of a planet on the main screen. It hovered in space like a secret. Dark green atmosphere, massive rings, no cities, no signs of civilization, on the surface at least. But the AI read the heat signatures below. Multiple subterranean facilities detected, defense matrix active, quantum shield grid in place, high-density antimatter readings, indicative of planetary-scale weapons. Perfect. They'd hidden their sins well, buried them in boardrooms and files and shallow graves, under smiles and protocol. But even gods bleed when the earth is scorched. The fleet gathered around us like wolves. 29 ships, fractured hulls, scarred plating, a graveyard's worth of dead names painted across every deck. This wasn't a fleet. It was a funeral procession heading for the home of the executioners. Every captain sent the same message. We follow you to the end. They weren't here for glory. None of us were. We didn't care for medals or legacies. We cared about making them remember. As we drew closer to orbit, the council finally spoke. A transmission broke through the static. The voice was calm, composed, female. This is Council spokesperson Elira Varen. You are violating the boundaries of a protected neutral system. Turn back. We are prepared to defend ourselves. I answered myself. Good. So are we. You don't understand what you're doing. You're right. I'm not doing. I'm undoing. We can offer terms. You offered starvation. You offered death. This is our response. I cut the line. The first wave hit their orbital grid hard. EMP bombs, stealth nukes, railgun shells. Their shields held for about 10 minutes, long enough for them to realize we'd been planning this longer than they thought. Our engineers, some of them from Europa's resistance movement, had spent years studying Council defense tech. Every loophole, every blind spot, every delay between shield pulses. The moment the cracks appeared, we widened them. And then we pushed through. The planet's upper atmosphere lit up in flame. Explosions rippled across the sky. Debris rained down in firestorms. Defense satellites blinked out. Orbital cannons rotated too slowly, and we kept going. I led the charge in a modified dropship retrofitted with heavy plating and ion thrusters. My squad was hand-picked, men and women I trusted with my life. Veterans from the Earth riots, survivors of the Martian blackouts, a medic who lost her sister during the lunar shutdown, a gunner whose entire unit was starved out on Ganymede. We weren't heroes. We were witnesses, and we were here to give our testimony in the only language they'd ever respected. Violence. The dropship punched through cloud cover like a fist. We dove straight toward the primary compound, coordinates marked from Arik's stolen data. A massive bunker, half buried under ice and metal. As we closed in, automated flak lit up the sky. I could hear it pounding against our hull, tearing chunks off the rear thrusters. "Brace!" I yelled. We crashed hard, skidded sideways across the surface, crushed half a tower, and came to a stop with smoke rising from the vents. Didn't matter. We were alive, weapons up, visors down. The hatch blew open, and we ran straight into the storm. The compound was a labyrinth of sterile halls and blast doors. It looked like a hospital. It smelled like a grave. We moved fast, floor by floor, clearing rooms, silencing guards. Most of them weren't soldiers, just administrators. Cowards who pressed buttons while billions suffered light years away. Some begged. We didn't listen. Some fought. They died. We weren't killing out of hate anymore. We were cleansing. Then we reached the central chamber, Massive vault doors, reinforced, 10 meters thick. DNA locked, voice authenticated, armored with materials stolen from mining colonies that once belonged to Earth. I looked to Lieutenant Harrow. He was bleeding from the shoulder, limping, but still moving. "You got enough left to breach it?" He grinned through broken teeth. "Only need one arm." 3 minutes later, the doors exploded inward. And there they were, the Core Council. 6 of them, all seated around a circular chamber with glowing consoles. Their faces were pale, soft, untouched. None of them had fired a weapon in their lives. They didn't stand, didn't beg. They just looked scared. Finally, I stepped forward, my boots echoing in the silence. They watched me like they were waiting for a negotiation. There wasn't going to be one. "You knew," I said. They didn't answer. "You saw the famine reports, the energy shortfalls, the blackout zones. You read the death counts, and you still voted for sanctions. You still locked us down." One of them, a man with silver skin and 3 eyes, spoke. "Earth's aggression had to be managed. Your instability posed a threat to galactic order." "And what did starvation pose?" No reply. Another one, a female with a translator chip blinking in her throat, tried. "We believed containment would limit escalation. You underestimated how far a man will go when you murder his child slowly." She flinched. But I wasn't here for confessions. I turned to Harrow. "Execute them." He didn't hesitate. 6 clean shots, no blood, the bullets vaporized on impact. Silent justice, efficient, cold, just like their policies. We planted charges in the core of the compound, enough to collapse the entire structure into itself. As we exited, the comms buzzed. "Rylan," came the voice from orbit. "Council forces in full retreat, fleet scattered, half of them turned on each other." "Any from Vorth?" "They're holding position, watching." "Let them watch." As the Vindicator lifted us back into orbit, the compound below erupted in fire. The ground shook, metal towers collapsed. Smoke rose like a black flag, and just like that, the Council was dead. Not symbolically, not politically, literally. You'd think we'd celebrate. But there was no cheering, just silence, exhaustion. Because vengeance isn't joy. It's a weight. And once it's done, you're left carrying the pieces of what it cost. Back aboard the Vindicator, I went to my quarters, removed my gear, sat down. For the first time in years, the rage stopped boiling, and all that remained was a photo. Terran. Smiling. He never saw any of this, and maybe that was mercy. The AI's voice came softly. "Commander, incoming message, from Earth." "Play it." It was a boy, no older than 12, dirt on his cheeks, pale skin, a shaky voice. "My mom said you're the reason we're not hungry anymore. She said you scared the monsters away. She said, thank you." I didn't speak, didn't trust my voice. But in that moment, I knew. We had changed the galaxy, not for power, not for revenge, but to make sure no child ever again had to whisper thank you through tears, just for being fed. Kirill 9 burned behind us as we left. The Council was gone. Their archives erased, their monuments shattered, their power broken, and in their place, a memory of Earth, of fire, of the day humanity stopped asking for mercy. I thought it would feel different, that after Kirill 9 burned, I'd feel peace, not joy. I gave up on that a long time ago, but maybe some kind of stillness, a quiet. It never came. All I got was the same silence, the same dull ache in my ribs, the same taste in my mouth, metallic and cold. We'd wiped out the Council, erased their stronghold from history, executed their leaders, pulverized their legacy. And yet somehow, the galaxy kept spinning. That was the first sign that something was off. 3 days after the fall, the Vindicator remained in orbit. The fleet scattered across nearby systems, refueling, repairing, waiting for orders I hadn't given. I kept my mouth shut. Because honestly, I didn't know what came next. Killing the Council was the plan. It was always the plan. But vengeance is a short-term solution. It burns fast and it burns everything. So now we had a galaxy on fire and no blueprint for what came after. That's when the transmission started, from all corners of space, not from enemies, from humans. First came the colony governors, places like Lysander's Reach, New Kyoto, Mars District 14. Each one sent the same kind of message: admiration, gratitude, then a demand. With the Council gone, we declare independence. No more Earth oversight, no more taxes. Long live the free colonies. Then came the radicals. You proved the galaxy only respects strength. It's time we stop hiding it. Earth first. No more peace treaties. No more species equality. We'll make them kneel. Even from Earth itself, the unity we thought we'd fought for started cracking. The Eurasian Union threatened to break away from the unified Earth Parliament. The North Atlantic Defense Pact wanted to build their own fleet. For protection. And worst of all, a man named Brant DeLong, a former military captain I'd once served with, declared himself Chancellor of the Reclaimed Earth, with a militia twice the size of what was left of our actual military. Said I inspired him. Said I was the hammer that opened the gates to a new empire. I wanted to shoot myself the second I saw his broadcast, because I knew what was coming. We'd become the symbol of resistance. Now we were becoming the excuse for conquest. Lieutenant Harrow stood across from me in the command room, arms folded, looking grim. "They're turning on each other already," he said. "We broke their chains, and now they're strangling themselves with them." I stared at the planetary display. 53 rebel factions, 17 splinter colonies, 6 new governments all claiming legitimacy, half of them using my name like it gave them divine permission to rule. They didn't want freedom, I muttered. They just wanted a different master. He didn't argue, because we both knew it was true. Then came the real warning. A transmission from Vorth space, unencrypted, loud, public. It was High Executor Krael again, the same bastard who tried to recruit us before the siege. "To the species of the galaxy, the Council is gone. Peace has failed. You may blame the humans, or you may thank them. It no longer matters. What matters is this. The age of restraint is over. The strong will now shape the stars." I should have seen it coming. With the Council dead, the Vorth weren't going to mourn. They were going to move. I slammed my fist against the console, hard enough to split the skin across my knuckles. The AI chimed in, voice flat. "Multiple Vorth fleets mobilizing. Systems within former Council borders destabilized. Civil war probability, 92%. Civil war? No, it was collapse. We hadn't ended tyranny. We'd shattered the dam holding back every hidden monster in the galaxy, and now the flood was coming. We called a meeting aboard the Vindicator. The first real gathering of what people were now calling the Earth Command. I hated the name, but I hated chaos more. 12 captains, a few governors, a handful of colony leaders. None of them agreed on anything, except that I was the only man they'd follow. I didn't sit at the table. I stood. "I didn't come here to build an empire," I said. "I didn't kill the Council just to replace it with another throne." They stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Governor Leeds from Proxima spoke up. "With respect, Commander, someone has to take the lead. If we don't fill the vacuum, someone else will. The Vorth, the pirates, the corporate guilds." "And what?" I cut in. "We play savior? Crown a new ruler under a different flag?" She didn't back down. "No, we protect Earth. We protect humanity, even if that means making hard choices." The room went quiet. And for the first time since Kirill 9, I felt something worse than rage. Doubt. Because she wasn't wrong. After the meeting, I walked the observation deck. Alone. The stars stared back at me, uncaring. I remembered Terran again. Not the day he died, the day he won his school election. He stood on a broken podium, holding a piece of paper, smiling so big his eyes squinted. "I don't want to lead, Dad," he'd said. "I just want to make sure nobody else wrecks things." He died believing in order. And now, I'd set fire to the only order he had. The AI broke my thoughts. "Incoming message. Source, Earth, Priority Alpha." "Play it." The screen blinked to life. A familiar face appeared. Not a politician. Not a soldier. General Roan. One of the last men I trusted. "Rylan, things are unraveling faster than we thought. We need you back. Earth's parliament is falling apart. Armies are forming around ideologies. Your name's being weaponized." I swallowed hard. "Too late for that." "Maybe, but you're still the only one they'll listen to. If we don't act now, we lose Earth. We lose everything." "Then maybe it deserves to fall." Roan's voice hardened. "Don't you dare! You didn't fight this war to let scavengers pick over the corpse." He paused. "Come home, son. One last fight. For the right reason this time." I ended the call and stared at the Earth symbol blinking on the nav screen. Home. Whatever that meant anymore. But maybe Roan was right. Maybe the war wasn't over. Maybe this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about redemption. The next morning I gathered the fleet, sent the order. Set course for Earth. No more burning outposts, no more destroying monuments. Now it was time to protect what we had left. From the aliens, from ourselves, from the rot still hiding in the hearts of men who think power is their birthright. Because this fire didn't start with the Council, it started with us. And if we didn't own it, it would consume us. The Vindicator turned toward home, engines roaring, the fleet shifting into formation behind it like a pack of wounded wolves. Earth awaited. And this time, we weren't coming to demand justice. We were coming to defend it, even if it meant standing against the very people we once fought beside. Because sometimes the hardest enemy to kill is the one wearing your face. We came out of fold space over the moon, a ghost fleet returning to a planet that barely recognized itself. Earth wasn't quiet. Earth was screaming. From orbit, I could see the fractures. Not physical. Those came later. These were political, ideological, and worse, personal. City-states claiming sovereignty, megacorps hiring private armies, refugee zones built around collapsed infrastructure where council support had once propped up weak governments. The unified Earth Parliament? Gone. Dissolved 2 weeks after Kirill 9 burned. What was left of it now sat scattered across underground bunkers and secured satellite platforms, each one pretending to still speak for humanity. And everywhere? My name. Scrawled on resistance banners, painted on riot shields, chanted in back alley broadcasts by lunatics who'd never seen a battlefield in their lives. Rylan Maddox showed us the way. Rylan Maddox burned the chains. Rylan Maddox is the fire. Every time I heard it, I felt sick, because they were wrong. I wasn't the fire. I was just the spark. We landed the Vindicator in what was left of Geneva, used to be the capital of diplomacy. Now it looked like a city that had survived a civil war and was preparing for another. Barricades made from old vehicles. Surveillance drones patrolling shattered skylines. Crowds lining up for ration packs distributed by automated bots, because no one trusted human oversight anymore. I stepped off the ramp and felt dirt under my boots. Real Earth dirt. Not simulated gravity, not metal plating. Home. And somehow it felt more foreign than Varel Prime ever did. General Roan met me at the ruins of what used to be the assembly hall. His uniform was tattered but still worn like a badge of defiance. He didn't salute. We weren't doing ceremony anymore. "You look worse," I muttered. He grunted. "So do you." We didn't hug, didn't shake hands, just stared at each other like soldiers who had both crawled out of separate graves and weren't sure whether to shoot or sit down. He finally broke the silence. "It's worse than you think." "I know." "No, you don't." He led me through a corridor lit by emergency lamps and guarded by loyalists armed with rifles and dead eyes, soldiers without a war, patriots with no flag. We reached a tactical briefing room, what passed for a command center now. Holograms lit up the table. Earth's major territories mapped out in blood-red zones, flashpoints, border conflicts, mutiny reports. "Who's leading this mess?" I asked. Roan sighed. "That's the problem. Everyone thinks they are." He pointed to different factions. Brant DeLon's faction took over most of North America, calls it the reclaimed state, militia-based rule, claims he's restoring Earth's original values, which apparently means armed checkpoints and public executions. The Eurasian bloc splintered. Russia's closed its borders entirely. China's under martial law. There's a rebel group in New Siberia calling themselves the Children of Maddox. I groaned. South America's fighting over trade routes. Africa's holding the line but starving. Mars won't answer our messages, and someone just nuked half of old Cairo trying to cleanse council influence. He turned to me. "You see now? We won the war, Rylan, but we lost the people." I paced the room, fists clenched. They wanted freedom. Now they have it. "They wanted justice," Roan corrected, "but they didn't know what to do when they got it." He walked over, placed a hand on my shoulder. "You're the only one left who can speak and be heard. The name still means something." I shook him off. "They're worshipping a ghost." "Then resurrect the real one." Later that night, I stood outside the old council broadcast tower. Still operational, barely. A skeleton crew ran it on solar batteries and hard faith. Roan handed me the mic. "They'll listen." I stared at the blinking red light. I hadn't spoken to Earth in months. Not like this. Not as a commander, not as a man. I took a breath and spoke. "This is Rylan Maddox. I didn't burn the council to give you new masters. I didn't start a war so you could wear my name like a crown and strangle your neighbors with it. You think this is what justice looks like? Looted streets, blockades, executions? You want to honor Earth? Then fix it. Help the starving. Defend the weak. Rebuild what they tried to erase, and stop pretending I gave you permission to become the monsters we fought. The war is over. Now it's time to prove we deserve to win it." I killed the broadcast, walked out into the cold. The stars above were the same. But Earth, she was still bleeding. 2 days passed. No response. Then came the first signal. Brant DeLon issued a public challenge, a broadcast of his own. He stood atop a monument in what used to be Washington, D.C., surrounded by armed guards and a crowd of thousands. "The hero returns," he mocked. "The man who started the fire now wants to put it out. You're too late, Maddox. We built this world on the ashes you gave us. You don't get to change your mind." He raised a clenched fist. "If you want to stop me, come do it yourself. Face me, or shut up and get out of the way." Roan looked at me across the war table. "You're not going to like what I'm about to say." "Say it anyway." "You have to go to him." "No." "Yes." "He wants a stage. I'm not giving him one." "You already did. The moment you killed the council, you handed him a script. Now you've got to end it." I spent the night staring at Earth's sky. Thought about Terran again. He used to ask questions no kid should have had to ask. "Why don't they care, Dad?" "They do. They just forgot how." And now I was asking the same thing. Only this time, I had to answer it myself. At dawn, I gave the order. pack the Vindicator for a direct drop over the reclaimed state's capital. We weren't bringing an army. Just me, Roan, and 3 loyalists. This wasn't a siege. It was an execution. DeLon wanted a showdown? He was going to get one. We landed just outside his fortress, a repurposed capitol building turned fortress compound. His people waited, armed to the teeth, forming a corridor of rifles and misplaced loyalty. He stood at the end, smug, overconfident. "Didn't think you'd come," he sneered. "I didn't come to talk." He motioned to the stage behind him. "One duel. You win, I disband. I win, you admit I was right." I looked him dead in the eye. "You're not right. You're just surviving in chaos you didn't earn." Then I pulled my weapon. No countdown. No rules. I moved faster. He reached for his sidearm, but I was already on him. 2 shots to the leg, 1 to the hand. He screamed, fell backward. Blood smeared the monument stairs. I walked up, placed my boot on his chest. Let this be the last time Earth bows to a coward with a microphone. I turned to the crowd. You followed him because you were afraid. Now follow truth. I looked down at DeLon and left him breathing because I wanted Earth to remember this moment, the day the symbol fought back. DeLon's fall didn't fix everything. It didn't magically erase the blood spilled or rebuild shattered cities, but it sent a signal, one louder than any broadcast, stronger than any speech. The symbol had stood up for itself, and it hadn't crowned a new king. It hadn't claimed a throne. It had walked away. That's what made it powerful. I didn't look back when I left his compound. The man lay in his own blood, moaning, broken, surrounded by the silence of former supporters who couldn't decide if they'd seen justice or just another type of power. It didn't matter. He wasn't the threat anymore. They were. Back in Geneva, Roan was waiting. "How bad was it?" he asked. "He won't walk again, and if he does, it'll be with a limp Earth we'll remember." He gave a slow nod. "You didn't kill him?" "No." "Good. Wasn't mercy." He chuckled once, dry. "I know." The days that followed were quiet. Too quiet. No riots, no new rebellion, just a galaxy blinking in confusion, waiting to see what we'd do next. That was the most dangerous part. Not the war, not the fighting, the waiting, because power doesn't die when you kill its figureheads. It mutates, slips into the cracks, rebrands itself, puts on a nicer suit, learns new slogans. We didn't just need to rebuild Earth. We needed to make damn sure we didn't repeat what we'd destroyed. So we got to work. The first move was burning the banners, all of them. Every flag that rose after the Council's fall, reclaimed state, free colonies, Earth Sovereignty Front, they were all symbols soaked in blood, fear, or ego. I made the announcement myself. No more flags, no more factions, no more men carving their names into planets and calling it order. From now on, Earth stands united, or not at all. We didn't offer a new empire. We offered breathing room, 30 days of ceasefire, enforced by every fleet and weapon we still had. 1 month to come together, send representatives, build a real structure, one not born in a bunker or a battlefield. Some refused. They didn't last long. The second step was harder. Justice, not vengeance, not trials rigged by loyalists. Real, bitter, uncomfortable justice. We opened tribunals. Put former Earth leaders on trial for collaborating with the Council. Put Council loyalists in front of the very people they betrayed. And yes, even put ourselves on trial. One man, Colonel Shire, asked me point blank during a hearing. "You led the strikes on civilian targets. You admitted it. How do you justify it?" I didn't flinch. I don't. I explain it. We weren't trying to make friends. We were trying to be heard. The Council wasn't listening. "And would you do it again?" I paused, then said, "No, because now the galaxy listens when we whisper." The third step? We called it the Unity Charter, A new Earth compact, built from the ground up. No top-down government, no elite ruling class. A council of equals, rotating power, citizen-reviewed laws, decentralized infrastructure, and planetary veto rights. Not perfect. Nothing is. But better. We didn't ask alien species to join it. We invited them. Some laughed, some spit on it. A few watched in silence. But one species, the Aranthi, who'd lost half their trading rights under council corruption, signed the charter live on a global broadcast. That opened the door, and once a door is open, it's hard to close. It took time. Years, probably. But in those first weeks, we saw something different. Not peace, not hope, effort. Martian engineers helping rebuild flood zones in Brazil. Asteroid miners donating resources to Earth's new satellite grid. Former pirates laying down arms in exchange for land and citizenship. It wasn't a utopia, but it was human. I stayed in the shadows during most of it. No podiums, no elections, no statues. I refused every title they offered. President, Director, General of Peace. Hell, one group even tried to name a lunar colony after me. I vetoed it. They renamed it Terran Base instead. That one I let stand. One night, I stood alone at the edge of what used to be the United Nations compound. The walls were gone now, replaced by open gardens and communal fires. No guards, no checkpoints, just people. Talking, disagreeing, trying. Roan walked up beside me, older now, slower. "You could have ruled it all," he said quietly. "I never wanted to." "I know. That's why it worked." We stood in silence, watching kids play in the rubble of the old world like it was nothing more than scenery. They didn't know what the council was, didn't care. All they knew was that someone had protected them, then walked away from the throne. That mattered more than anything I ever said. Eventually, I left Earth, took a small ship, disappeared beyond the belt. Not because I gave up, because they didn't need me anymore. And that was the goal all along. They still tell stories about me. Some are true, most aren't. They say I burned a planet with one command, that I faced down Vorth fleets alone, that I once shot a council senator with a weapon made from recycled ration cans. I let them believe what they want, because what matters isn't the man, it's the memory of a time when Earth got tired of kneeling, of a time when justice wasn't handed down, it was taken back, of a time when we answered pressure with fire, and then chose to rise from the ashes instead of building a new pyre. So if you're hearing this now, wherever you are, whatever world you're standing on, remember this. We weren't always right. We weren't always good. But we stood. We burned. And then, we rebuilt. Because that's what humans do best, not conquer, not command, survive, and make damn sure the next time someone tries to break us, they think twice.